Hey, it's Jeff Tamburello. I'm joined by Mike Lyons, the other director of the Southwest Florida and we are with Paul. Paul, say your last name.
DeWarian. It's kind of like
Oh,
the time machine in Back to the Future, but without the
okay.
L.
So the Paul flux capacitor.
There you go.
Paul's going to be our speaker at the general meeting here in March about how to make your business self-managing. How you doing, Paul?
Doing great today. How about yourself?
Good. So tell us about you. How'd you get here from Chicago?
Well, I could say that, and this is going to be part of the presentation, but originally I wanted to be a snowbird, but I didn't want to wait until I retired to be a snowbird. So I took it upon myself to start a business that I could do from anywhere. And that was kind of my first goal. And I was able to, fortunately, with people that I know, some people that are part of the group there, stay in their places and work from Fort Myers. And that's kind of what brought me down to this area.
Cool. Now, had you been here before, or you just came out of vacation?
One of the members has a bunch of properties in the area here, and he also lives up in the Chicago area with me, and I kind of met him up there. So that's how I got this connection. But my wife and I weren't really sure where in Florida we wanted to live, so we checked out all around the outer coastal areas on the other side, north of here, other side of the state, and we really liked the pace of life here versus on the other side for sure. We actually got married on a cruise ship in Fort Lauderdale 5 years ago as well.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the pace of life, Chicago versus Broward, Dade County, there really isn't much of a difference.
That's crazy over there.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool for about 3 to 5 days, and then I'm ready to come home.
Right.
So
you picked a good place, man. We're glad you came.
Thank you.
You're basically like our Mark Zuckerberg of Southwest Florida. So,
we'll see.
So tell us about what you did so you wanted to live here in Southwest Florida, but your business is primarily Chicago and everywhere else. So where did you go from there once you realized where you wanted to go?
Well, once I kind of got myself established here, goal 2 was to actually get my business to be self-managing. So this way I wasn't stuck in the day-to-day. There's those buzzwords that you always hear, like you should be working on your business instead of in your business. And I really took that to heart and studied quite a bit on how to actually make that happen. The biggest struggle I think that entrepreneurs have is how do I begin that process? Mm-hmm. Who do I delegate these to? How do I make that work? Where do I start? And a lot of those questions are kind of what I'm going to elaborate on when I present Wednesday night.
Good. So you've told me and Mike how you hired you. Do you mind sharing some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So since we're fortunate enough to be a virtual business, we can hire people from anywhere in the country or the world for that matter. But I recall the last time we posted for a executive assistant, we put that posting on Indeed.com, which was very low cost. I think we spent $100 on a Facebook post or a Facebook ad. We targeted people who already had that job position anywhere in the United States. Spent about $100. I think we had about 1,000 applicants within 2 days. We used some different questions that we put into the application to filter out a good chunk of those and ended up with 30 potential candidates that we might be interested in.
If you once we had those, we used it down to 30. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Going down to that. But this is where it gets even better. We used a tool called Spark Hire, which is a self-video interview platform. And what that allows you to do is pose 10 questions to people, and they self-interview on their webcam on their computer. So you could really go through quite a few people and kind of screen folks out that aren't a good fit for what you're looking for. Surprisingly, we had people I had one that we got that was doing their self-interview from a bathroom stall, which was pretty hilarious. But
out of the 30?
Out of the 30, yes.
One was a bathroom stall.
So,
multitasking at its finest.
That's one way to think of it. Another way is maybe that's poor judgment. I don't know. So, but it's a great way to go through that. Then once we moved past that process, I think we narrowed it down to 5 that we did one-on-one video interviews, kind of like what we're doing here in Zoom, and then we settled on our final candidate. In addition to that, I also wanted to mention we use a tool called Best Work Data that allows us to evaluate the candidate's cognitive ability to be able to perform job functions. So that really screens out folks that aren't able to learn quickly, which is a problem for me if they can't pick up on the Amazon knowledge they need to quickly. Yeah, we're just wasting time training somebody new.
You from our conversations wrote this process down. I'm getting ready to hire another VA for Steelbridge, my brokerage, and I'm going to try this on Upwork. I don't know how it's going to go. It'll actually, probably we could have a lot of fun making a blooper reel of some of the interviews. Well, we have the one Jane who's amazing. I think she's been with us, like 3 years?
Yeah, at least 3 years. Yeah.
She's in the Philippines, and it was really, we didn't do the automated like you did, but we did a whole bunch of interviews, and I recorded them on Skype, so that I could go back the next day and we could listen to them. Mike listened to them as well. And we had one that we really liked, but when you really listen to it the next day, I could hear chickens in the background. And she was in Mindanao in the Philippines, which is a really rural, wild area. I mean, as a Marine, it's the first place I was off base with live ammo, not at the range. I mean, it's pretty wild. If you go off base, like doing training op there, even in the 80s, you were locked and loaded. And she was in a barn in Mindanao with chickens in the background. And had we not recorded it and listened the next day, I would have hired her because I really liked her. And if she was in just a better work environment, I think we would have hired her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we ended up doing great with the one we have, with the assistant we have. And, we couldn't do this without her anymore. Don't listen to that, Jane. She's going to shake us down. But, it's, we're going to try it. Have you ever tried it with overseas assistants, or has it only been people in America?
Well, currently my staff is made up of 20 folks that are in 7 different states across the United States. But actually, I did get my start when I was still working for a school district as an administrator. I actually outsourced parts of my day job to a virtual assistant. And that's what allowed me to what I call multiply time. I'm going to get into some of those concepts a little bit more. But yeah, how do I start a business if I have a full-time job? Well, one way to do it is to give yourself more time to work on the things that are important to you. So some of those different thoughts are kind of out of the box. For those folks that have read the 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss kind of goes through some of how those concepts work. But I'd be happy to tell my personal story and how I did some of those things too.
Yeah, no, you mind sharing just a hair? How did you get away with being an hourly employee but having a VA do all your stuff?
That's genius. What that is.
Well, first off, I didn't tell them that that's what I was doing. So that's point one. Point two, the work was getting done and it was high quality, and I was, doing the quality assurance to make sure it was completed. 3, I used some techniques. Jeff, you were just saying before you had somebody who comes into your office and interrupts you all the time. Well, that's your wife, and you guys work together. But in the school that I was at, it was somebody else that constantly came to my office. So.
And I think he said he's happy that she comes in all the time, right, Jeff? Go ahead.
But I actually would have the desk phone up to my ear whenever I would see that person coming in, and then they would turn around thinking that I was on the phone. I was just listening to a dial tone, so this way I didn't have to speak with that person, because they usually wasted a whole bunch of my time with questions that weren't pertaining to what my job function was, and it was just really irritating. And then she would end up emailing me after, which is what I was basically training her to do, which is email me if you have a question instead of popping into my office and interrupting me.
I have to share something too. That in my office, my brokerage, we came from an office that we had a good experience at, actually great experience at. But one of the issues was we'd have tenants that would walk in, and we of course specialize in property management. And tenants would walk in and want to talk about sometimes very not important things. And so we, instead of having a front office desk, we put by appointment only. And it's life-changing. I mean, the hour plus or more per day, sometimes a couple hours of dealing with just nonsense stuff went away. So you can change things in your business to just get rid of non-productive things like that. I mean, it was literally, we went from having a front receptionist to where if they came in and you were in the back office, they wouldn't say you're not there, and they would lie about it. So you have to meet with them. And now if there's no appointment, it's life-changing. It's been great. So
absolutely.
Get rid of stuff that doesn't that doesn't help you get your work done is great.
Right. I mean, just, does the tenant coming in complaining about something that's not really relevant to what you're trying to do to grow your business? If it isn't, you need to figure out how to eliminate it.
Absolutely. And that an email or text, or there's so many things that can be done that are more productive, even more time. The message can be brought across still, but you're not sitting for 40 minutes later. They're still trying to tell you about their life story. It's like, I'm sorry, I just don't have time to do this. So anyway.
Exactly. And to that point, Mike, with people that left me voicemails, I would return the communication via email, essentially training them not to call me. And then the whole idea behind email is there's no expectation of an immediate response, where a text message there is. So you can also kind of evaluate the communication item that you have and customize how you're going to use it to, make your time most effective. In fact, when I was doing websites, I knew I had some clients that like to respond right back to emails right away. So I used a tool in my email to delay the sending of the email to a time where I knew they were busy or unavailable, just so I didn't get the immediate response and push back the response one day. So there are some analytical things that you can think about with using different types of communication to
that's great.
optimize your time.
And I get too, there's clients, for example, that I deal with that they want a phone call back. We work together. I have no problem. I mean, it's not even an issue of making phone calls, that kind of thing. And I get that's not what you're alluding to either, but there are things that are definitely time wasters that if you can identify them and put them off to the side for a little while or eliminate them completely. Because in some cases, I know with business that I'm in, there's times where it's a pointless conversation that's going nowhere that we can't really help other than they just want to be heard, which that's not bad either, but you can't do that 40 times a day. You have no time left in the day. So, I mean, you can get rid of those kind of things or minimize them. Huge time saver.
Exactly. And the whole point behind these things isn't, it's essentially to spend your time doing what you're most effective at. Mm-hmm. And if your goals are to hit a certain target in terms of revenue, or you're looking to do whatever it is, any seconds or minutes that you're spending on something that doesn't align with that is just putting you farther and farther away from that goal. So during my presentation on Wednesday, I'm going to get into some of those specific items that a lot of people are guilty of, that they spend their time on. And if you redirect that energy into the correct areas, you will all of a sudden be a person that, like me, I have a business that runs itself. I could take off the entire year and just vacation, and I'll still make money, and I won't have to do anything with the business. I choose not to do that because I want to work on things that will grow it to be even bigger than it is now. But I don't need to be engaged. I'm not like individuals that are trading time for their money. When I stop working, my business continues to cash flow, and that's an amazing feeling.
Okay. Makes sense.
I'll tell you what's, because it's the easy answer is, you outsource and you trying to scale what you're not good at and what you hate to do. But I'm in the process of trying to scale what I'm good at and what I like to do. And that's hard.
It is.
It's hard to give up what you like to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you have to get to that abundance mindset, and you have to get out of the feeling that just because I do this really well doesn't mean I can't find someone else who could do it as well as I can. Or even if they don't do it as well as you, they're still producing, and you've gotten yourself out of that job. And now all of a sudden you're working on the real big picture. How do I get 6 people doing the same thing I do, or 80 people doing the same thing I do, so they're all making me a whole bunch of money, and I'm just trading my money for their time to massively grow my business. The whole idea is stop trading time for money and trade your value for money. And if you can make that transition, you're getting into that right side of the cash flow quadrant.
Makes sense. Also, for me, I'm become very good at anything that's friction. I spin off quick. It's just not worth it. I mean, I think we'd all be extremely wealthy if we could figure out a way to just get the friction out of our business. Because, I mean, friction it's a time waster. It takes you out of your game. So
it stops the flow of things. And if you're dealing with people, which most everyone is, obviously, if you're in business, some people get set off by different things, and you could even not be the reason or the source of why they're mad, but they want to vent to you, and you're kind of, there's the professional side, you have to kind of listen, but is it a time waster? And you're kind of thinking, where's this leading?
Here's the irony, the less that because I have a real estate brokerage amongst the other things I do, the less that I speak to real estate agents on the phone, the better my life quality is. So It's I don't know another way to say it. And then also like I do my best to not speak to other agents, and I also don't watch the news. And between those two things, my happiness levels probably went from a 6 to a 9.
Well, yeah, time wasters like news and social media, or you think about individuals that work for you. For those that have read 1 Minute Manager, they bring a problem into your office, and they want you to take care of it. So your job is to make sure they leave with that monkey. Maybe you'll be asking them questions on how to think differently, or ask them how they think they should handle the problem. So this way you start to train them to deal with the problems on your behalf. So this way you're not having to do it. Maybe before you give up full control to that person, which is very difficult to give up as an entrepreneur, I can't trust this person completely to do this. Well, then have them come to you with the solution that they think is good. And then all you got to say is yes or no. And that's a great way to kind of lead into that.
Makes sense. Is there anything else about your presentation specifically you want to kind of highlight as a kind of a preview of what you're going to be speaking about, in addition to what we've already discussed?
I'm going to share some resources, some different books and things that have really helped me quite a bit, some different systems that I use. And I'm going to start, what I think is going to be really valuable for folks that are there is I'm going to talk about things that are really simple that can be implemented today. So this way we're not, one thing that always frustrated me when I listen to people say, you should be working on your business instead of in your business. So it just aggravated me, like, where do I start? What is the one thing I could start doing that on today? And that was a frustrating experience for me. So I spent a lot of time studying it. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is I'm going to start laying out a lot of very small, specific examples that people could start implementing immediately to give themselves a whole bunch more time that they didn't know they had.
Great. No, that makes sense.
Cool. Well, the meeting is March the 20th. Doors open at 5:30, and I know I will be there taking notes. I'm looking forward to it, Paul.
We appreciate it, Paul. Looking forward to your speech.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being there.